Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to A Time to Kill, a donation reward for Venom 00... I almost put in too many zeros. Venom 0027. So, I don't know what this is. It sounds like a James Bond title, honestly. I don't think it is, but that's what it sounds like to me. Based on the title alone, not too much to go off of. Something about murder, maybe? I don't know. I don't know who's in this. I don't know when this came out. I don't really know what to expect at all. So, there's not really much to talk about going into this. I don't even know what this movie's rated. The only thing I do know is the runtime, and only because I have it up right now, and I looked up the runtime as I was determining whether or not I was going to record this today. It's about 2.5 hours, so it's a long one. But that's fine. I got some water right here. Keep me hydrated and going. So I should be all good. Yeah, I don't know what to expect at all, so there's not really much of anything else to talk about. I know, really, really short pre-thoughts, but sometimes there's just not much to discuss, so... When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. Or to the movie, rather. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, first of all, I want to look up a couple of the actors because they looked familiar. Emmett Walsh was the doctor on the stand who had been convicted of statutory rape and everything. I was thinking he looked kind of familiar, but I couldn't place from where. He was in Christmas with the Cranks, the Tim Allen and, mind is blanking, Jamie Lee Curtis movie. Yeah, he was a notable character in that. Apparently he was also a voice in The Iron Giant, but I wouldn't have recognized him, like, what he looks like from that. The other notable actor I wanted to look up was Brenda Fricker, who was oh my goodness. Why can't I think of the word? Assistant to Matthew McConaughey's character? I can't think of the word for the life of me. But you know, the one who ended up leaving and saying that he was, like, doing the wrong thing and everything. I was thinking she looked so familiar and I couldn't place it. She was the homeless lady in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. And it's like, just the instant I saw that, it's like, oh my god, yes, that is 100% her. The Pigeon Woman, remember? And she's been in other movies like Angels in the Outfield and whatnot. Let me see here. Anything else I know offhand? Not really much. She's currently working, though. She's been in stuff in the recent years. Oh, she was in So I Married an Axe Murderer. If you haven't seen that, that is a Mike Myers film. It's a black romantic comedy. And it's ridiculous. But it's a Mike Myers film, so fair enough. Yeah, she was in that as well. But yeah, so I want to look up those two. I got pretty much everyone else, like, who I recognized and all. And then I wanted to look up the reception to this movie. Apparently, on Rotten Tomatoes, though, as I always say, Rotten Tomatoes really doesn't matter, because it's just like they try to make it seem like it's a bigger deal than it is, because it's like, oh, you have multiple reviewers, multiple critics and stuff, and it's like, yeah, but a lot of the professional film critics are very much the kinds of people who will hear about a movie before even seeing it and automatically make their judgment before even ever seeing the film. And they're the kinds of people who will just fall in line with the popular opinion that they hear, just so they don't get like mocked or whatnot, or lose credibility. Basically, professional film critics, don't take them seriously. Form your own opinions. But either way, on Rotten Tomatoes, the film apparently has a 67 approval rating based on 58 reviews, with an average rating of 6.2, and the general consensus reading overlong and superficial. Nonetheless, A Time to Kill succeeds on the strength of its skillful craftsmanship and top-notch performances. Roger Ebert gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying, "I was absorbed by A Time to Kill and found the performances strong and convincing," and added that this is the best of the film versions of Grisham novels, I think, and has been directed with skill by Joel Schumacher. But there are apparently some detractors as well. Anthony Puccinelli gave it 1 star out of how many it doesn't say, calling it worthless and remarking, "A Time to Kill argues for vigilantism but disguises its message by making the vigilante black, allowing viewers to think their bloodlust and thirst for revenge is actually empathy for the oppressed." Peter Travers felt that they, Schumacher and screenwriter Akiva Goldsman, crammed in too much, adding, "This distracts from the heart of the picture, which is in the bond between Carl Lee, the brilliant Samuel L. Jackson in Quietly Devastating, and Jake, a husband and father who knows he too would have shot anyone who raped his little girl." Gene Siskel remarked it as an overwrought, contrived courtroom thriller, cornball, and concluded, "This story has been recycled out of countless better movies." Grisham, the author of the book that it's based on, enjoyed the film, remarking, "When all was said and done, I was happy with it. Happy we were able to find a kid like Matthew McConaughey, a kid. It wasn't a great movie, but it was a good one." So, what do I think of this film? I think that I said a lot when I explained during the reaction that, without question, Carl Lee was guilty. That his crime was, without question, wrong. That his vigilantism was, without question, wrong. The reasoning for it, I understand. I empathize with. And I can't even blame him for. But to say he's innocent is just plain false. And to say he was insane or driven to insanity is also proven in the film itself to be false. This was a premeditated action that he had thought about well beforehand. He went to Matthew McConaughey's character, to Jake, and told him ahead of time that he was going to do this. Jake didn't take it seriously, didn't call the cops, and as such, it happened. This was something Jake knew about ahead of time. And it was something that was premeditated and was thought through. It wasn't like this spur-of-the-moment decision brought on by grief or whatnot. It was brought on by grief, but not as a spur-of-the-moment thing, not out of like a lack of sane, rational thinking. And that's where the film conflicts me. Because, as I said, I empathize with Carl Lee. I, like Jake, find that if I were in a similar situation, obviously not as a parent myself, I can't speak exactly into that regard, but I believe that if I were in a similar situation, I probably would want to kill those fuckers as well. And I would probably not even be upset by their deaths. And again, I can't say for 100% sure what I would do because, again, I'm not a parent. I don't have a kid. And I have never been in a situation like this. So I cannot say for sure. But I'm confident that I would want to. I don't know if I would act on it. I would hope not, but I'm confident that I would at least think about it. But on the other hand, I acknowledge that unless it was something that was done out of a grief response, if I had thought about it, if I had given it proper time to think about, to properly, like, let it sit and let myself determine it from a perspective of proper sane thinking, then I would acknowledge that that is wrong and that should be punishable. But it's also like Donald Sutherland's character said in this film. No matter what the verdict, justice is served. If Carl Lee is freed, justice is served because of what was done to him and his daughter specifically. But if he is found guilty and sent to either life in prison or even death, technically speaking, justice is served. Because he did commit a crime. A crime that did cause 2 deaths and another person to lose his leg. And even though the deputy did not blame Carl Lee, even though he sided with him even, it doesn't matter. It was still an illegal, wrong action. So I'm mixed on a lot of this. And it makes me hard to fully take a side here. And even to fully determine at the end who's in the right here. Or rather, to determine whether or not Carl Lee should have gotten off with an innocent verdict. Do I think he should have been put to death? No, because like our other character in this, God, what is her name? I'm bad with names, you guys know this. Roark, Sandra Bullock's character. Like with Roark, I don't believe in the death penalty. Do I think that people who do shit like this, especially hearing the details about exactly what these 2 did to this poor girl, do I think that they deserve death? Honestly, yes. I was holding in a lot when that scene was going, when Matthew McConaughey was explaining to the jury to close their eyes and to imagine all of this. Like, I was holding in a lot of tears that I was, like, really trying hard not to shed. I don't know why I try to like hold in tears. It's like you guys know that I'm a very easy crier, and you guys know that it's like I get emotional easily. So it's like I don't know why I try to hide, like hold tears in still. But I was, you notice I was also, I think, completely silent during that scene as well. I was sick to my stomach, and I was gripping my leg so tight that I'm surprised it didn't draw blood. I'm not even kidding. Like I hurt myself watching that scene. Um, I'm surprised. There is a there. Well, I don't know if it's still there. It might have faded by now, but there was a mark on there. After I stopped the recording, like I actually looked because it's like, did I actually do something to myself? Did I like really hurt myself? Because I like once kind of the adrenaline, I guess you could say, and everything had faded. Like I started feeling the pain. Adrenaline's probably the wrong word, by the way, but still. I started feeling the pain, and I started, like, getting really, like, you understand. I can't speak. Um, but yeah, it's hard to side with one side. Because while I do believe that those two deserve death, while I do believe that their actions were absolutely reprehensible, while I do believe, and I have stated multiple times, that I feel that rape is the single worst thing a single person, or I guess a couple people, could do to someone. Outside of, like, full on genocide of a people. It's like with like one or two people or so, like not talking like a military kind of thing. It is the outside of that kind of thing, like the worst crime someone can commit. It is absolutely devastating physically, emotionally, mentally, and on top of that, everything else they did to her as well. The assault, throwing her off the bridge, trying to hang her. It's just. Venom warned me at some of these things, that some of these other rewards that he had given me before had some heavy shit in them. So I understood that was a possibility going into this. That does not make the viewing experience easier, per se. It just makes it so that I kind of not really knew it was coming, per se, but I was prepared for it, so I was able to handle it better. But it's like, this movie touched on a lot of things. Not only the rape, the beating, the attempted murder and everything, but it also touched on, obviously, racism as a very heavy component, with the KKK directly in it and everything. It touched on corrupt police. It touched on all kinds of things. And it was all very hard to watch. And there were a lot of scenes where I was just not okay. And despite that all, again, I say with certainty that I say with certainty that Carl Lee was guilty. And I don't know whether or not I believe he should have gotten free. But I also say without a doubt that what happened to his daughter was one of the worst things that could happen. And I don't blame him for his actions. And I don't feel bad for those two rapist cunts with what they did. And keep in mind, obviously, I'm speaking about all of this as in terms of the characters in the film. Obviously, I hold nothing against any of the actors or actresses in here outside of Kevin Spacey, who is a piece of fucking shit. But otherwise, it's like, they're actors, they're doing a job. I know that Kiefer Sutherland is not a Nazi, or not Nazi, but is, well, not that either, but not a KKK member. Also, I want to check something here. Is Kiefer Sutherland and Donald Sutherland related? Like, I just thought about that, just like thinking about their names here. It's like, are they actually related at all? I'm actually completely unsure. Oh yeah, Donald Sutherland's just straight up his father. I honestly did not know that. I genuinely did not know that. It makes sense. I didn't know. I just thought about that right now, looking at their names. But yeah, Kiefer Sutherland's playing a role. They all are. I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, you can get invested enough in a film to where it's like you see the characters rather than the actors. Watching this movie, I lost track of the fact that was Matthew McConaughey most of the film. Most of the time watching, I did not think to myself, I'm watching Matthew McConaughey. No, I thought I'm watching Jake Briggins. And same with Samuel L. Jackson as Carl Lee. He completely disappeared in the role, which is actually really surprising because Samuel L. Jackson does not do that very easily. He's a phenomenal actor, but most of the time when you're watching Samuel L. Jackson in something, it's like, that's Samuel L. Jackson. And it's like, it's great, it's awesome, but it's definitely Samuel L. Jackson. I kind of lost track of that at points in here. And I would say, in fact, the only actor I was watching here that it's like, that I really, like, noticed for being the actor rather than the character was Kevin Spacey, and only because of how much I despise Kevin Spacey for, you know, the sexual assault and shit that he did. And Oliver Platt, he's always kind of a weird one, because he's always kind of on the edge for me. It's like he never fully melds into the role, but he never just feels like Oliver Platt either, if that makes any sense. He's just kind of teetering on the edge for me in pretty much everything he's in. So he's a weird one. But most of them, it's like I got completely lost in, and I was just invested in the story. And from that perspective, from the perspective of this as a film, it was honestly really damn good. I don't think it was overly long. Like, this was 2.5 hours. Some of these critics apparently are saying that this was overly long. I don't think it was. I think the length was fine. I thought the pacing was fine. I thought that there wasn't really much of anything in there that really wasn't necessary, or at least everything in there pretty much added to the story. The only thing I would say that really didn't need to be in there were the hints of, I was just looking at the names too, the hints of Jake and Roark, like, nearly cheating with each other. Well, Jake would be the one cheating. But yeah, the near infidelity there, that was the only thing I felt was completely unnecessary. And honestly, it felt like it was done just because, oh, we have our main male character and our main female character. It's like, we've got to have them have some level of a romance. Even if nothing comes of it, there has to be something in there, because it's like people are going to want to see Matthew McConaughey and Sandra Bullock kind of maybe flirt around a little. And it's like it felt added in. It felt tacked in, and it felt unnatural and didn't add anything to the story. Nothing ever came of it. It was pointless. It was absolutely pointless. And that's the only thing, though. And taking that out really wouldn't have taken out much time at all. It really wouldn't. That's how little it was relevant to the film and how little time was spent on it. But pretty much everything else fit. And the pacing was fine. The acting was great. The writing was great. It from the perspective of a film, it was extremely well handled. But from the ideals and messages that it kind of went to in the end, I genuinely cannot say if I agree with it. Let's just put it this way. I genuinely can't say that I agree with it. Not whether or not I can. I can't say that I can at all. But I also can't say I disagree with it. It's such a hard topic, and it's such a very distinct situation to where I see both the innocence and guiltiness of Carl Lee at the same time. I don't think he deserves the death penalty, because I don't think anyone does. But I also don't necessarily think he deserves to go free. And it's like, but would life imprisonment be fair? And it's just like, I just keep going back and forth on it. And so I can't give an answer here. I just genuinely can't. As wild as that sounds. So we'll just have to we'll just have to say in the end I abstain from making a statement on that. Because again, it's like it's such a complex situation, so steeped in gray morality, that it's really hard to truly say, for me at least. Some other people may verge on one side or another. I like I said, I read one of those critiques saying that it's a 1 star and it's just excusing vigilantism and hiding it under the guise of, race-related topics. And I don't agree with that, by the way, because shit like this is very much a thing that has happened in real life. Racist-fueled rapes and murders and shit like this have very much happened in reality. And not even just decades and whatnot ago. Shit like this happens in the modern day. Believe it or not, racism is still very much alive, and it's really fucked up that it is, but it is. And shit like this still occurs. It may not be as common as it used to be, but it still happens, and it's absolutely fucking disgusting. And it's a topic that can't just be, in my eyes, answered without really talking about it. Racism isn't just going to go away by ignoring it or pretending it doesn't exist, or by just, not showing it in films or books or other media. We have to showcase this stuff because it gets their attention. It lets them know that this is still a topic that we unfortunately have to talk about. It tells them that this is stuff still happening in our society that we need to discuss, that we need to fix. We need to keep our voices loud to share that message, that we can't and won't stand for shit like this. We need to make that clear. So movies like this are still important to this day. Movies that touch on topics like this. And that's why films like Get Out did so well. And this movie is from the 90s. And it was relevant back then. It was relevant in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and so on and so forth. And I don't know if it'll ever be fully fixed. I don't know if we'll ever get to a point where racism is just completely stamped out. I would love that to be the case. That is, like, absolutely the dream. But I don't know if we will ever get to that point. But we need to keep working nonetheless to make it an attempt. We need to keep trying to make that happen. Because otherwise, it's just going to come back, and it's just going to get worse again. It's not something you can ignore. It's not something you can just let happen and hope it fizzles out eventually. You have to take an active stand. And that goes for more than just this, too. It goes for all kinds of injustices in the world. You have to take a stand against them. And that doesn't mean committing horrible crimes yourself, but at least just speak out. At least speak out against this kind of stuff. And that'll get more people to talk. It'll create a chain reaction. Or at least create the chance for one. It's better than doing nothing. So tell me in the comments below, what do you think of this film? What are your thoughts on the verdict? And what do you think of the acting, the story, the pacing, all of that as well? Let me know your thoughts down below. And again, I want to make clear to you, Venom, and to anyone else, I'm not saying to stop requesting these films. In fact, I actually want you to continue to request movies like this, if there's still plenty of movies for you to want to request for donation rewards for this kind of topic. Because again, it gets the word out. It gets people talking, and I want to be able to make these statements, to stand up against this kind of bigotry and hate and vitriolic evil. It's important. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable to watch films like this, but that's just because the horrible, evil shit that is displayed in them is uncomfortable and horrible and evil and shit. By name. But yeah, even with it being uncomfortable, it's still important to talk about, because it's more important that we make our statements known and speak out against injustice than if we're a little uncomfortable for a little bit of time. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you to Venom for donating. If you or anyone else wishes to donate in the future, As long as I haven't seen it, anything is free game. Movies, shows, YouTube videos, or shows, or whatever. As long as I haven't seen it before, and you can just simply ask me in the comments if it's something I haven't seen. Donations are taken via PayPal, and they are completely optional. You don't have to donate if you can't or just don't want to, but any amount gets you a reward nonetheless. No matter how much you donate, any amount helps greatly, and every donation will always get you a reward. But for the month of October, we are actually going to be holding a double reward month. What that means is for every donation, you get 2 rewards instead of 1. So it's an easy way to kind of build up a library of reactions for the future. And it allows me to be able to see even more things that I might not necessarily have ever checked out on my own. It also allows you guys to get out a lot of different ideas and to be able to share a bunch of different options that you might not have otherwise wanted to, or otherwise would have been sure about suggesting. And as always, it's completely optional, but it does very much help me out. All donations very much help me just in any expenses that I need them for, whether it be just things around the house and everything, just typical bills, groceries, or, you know, toiletries or whatever. Or sometimes I might use some of it in order to get stuff for the channel, such as the microphone that I use or the webcam that I use. Those were bought with donations. Or this laptop was bought with donations after my old one started crapping out on me. A couple people donated quite a lot of money to help me get a new laptop to, you know, continue the channel and to just help out. And yeah, it was very awesome. But again, you can donate only as much as you can or want to. Any amount still gets you a donation reward, no matter what. And again, double rewards for October, but if you don't want to, if you can't, it is completely optional. No videos on my channel will ever be behind a paywall. You will always be able to view everything I post. As long as you are able to go on the redirect to BitChute or Dailymotion or whichever one I'm using for whichever series. Because some shows just require Dailymotion or other sites because BitChute keeps blocking them. But yeah, I mean, nothing will be behind a paywall. You'll never have to pay to see any of my content. It should be available to pretty much anyone anyways. So yeah, either way, tell me your thoughts down below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See you all next time.